Now, I just want to take a quick moment to show you something new to Wired Client, and that is voice calls. So initially, we were just offering texting through this service, but we're now able to do voice calls as well. In certain populations, they prefer phone calls to text messages, so we have a way to accommodate them too. It works very similar to the automated text messages, where the big difference is in the event, rather than setting the contact method to SMS, we have the ability to send it as a voice call. So essentially what it can do is take any of your message templates, it'll take all the verbiage you have here, and a robot is going to call the client and it's going to read it to them. So if someone would prefer to get a phone call over a text, we don't know many that do, but if they do, you're able to accommodate them as well. We also have the ability to test the messages now. So over the years, a lot of folks have asked us, is there a way to see what the message looks like before I start sending it to my clients? And especially now that we have the voice calls, people want to know if there's a way to listen to the message before it actually goes out the door. So we can actually choose who we want to send the message to. We can choose whether we want it to be a SMS or a voice call, and we're able to do that as well. In addition, we have multi-language support now. So if you have folks who speak other languages, French, Spanish, we can include Spanish versions of the templates as well. So when in Practice Perfect, the client's preferred language is either French or Spanish, it can send them the corresponding version of the template as well. But that's it for me on the Wired Client side of things. Now I'm going to pass it over to Steve, and he's going to show us everything that's new with Practice Perfect.
Great, thanks, Matt. Just a couple, one housekeeping thing. I'm not sure if Matt had mentioned it or not. Anybody who puts questions in the chat, we will be going through those at the end. So I've noticed there's a couple have come in already. So we will be addressing all those at the end of the session. I'm not sure exactly how long this is going to take. I don't think it's going to take the full 45, but we'll see how we do. So the first thing right off the bat I want to tell you, we're going to be looking at version 639. 639, the release notes have been posted for 639. We haven't made it the official release yet. It will be this weekend. So anybody who updates after, anyone who's updated over the past couple of weeks has probably been on version 639. This weekend, we're gonna switch it over on the web. So anybody who updates on their own starting on Monday morning will have version 639, which is what we're discussing today. One thing I do want to mention right off the bat, just to remind everybody that we do have our release website. If ever you want to see, and I say this all the time during these sessions, what's going on, what have you missed, how far back are you, www.practiceperfectemr.com/releases, and you can see exactly what's on any release, what's on 639. It's going to show you based on category, general, financial changes, reporting changes, scheduling changes, that kind of thing. You can even do this by category. Let's say you want to see what's new with, let's say, the client portal or the patient portal. You can search that way as well. You'll see all the changes. So I do encourage people to go to anytime you want, www.practiceperfectemr.com/releases, just to see what is the newest and the greatest. And just for Matt, if you can hear me, I think keep an eye on the admitting people. I think there's a couple. There's one or two waiting to get brought in if you can. So in no particular order with these changes, and these are changes over the last probably maybe 3 or 4 months. I'm going to run through them. They are in the release notes again. And again, if there's any questions about these, put them in the chat. We'll deal with them later on, or feel free to contact our support people as well. Again, no particular order. We have a new little icon up here that maybe some of you have seen. It's this little eyeball icon. I'm on a patient. I'm on Carol here. What the eyeball does is focuses on that patient. So we have clinics, for example, some ABA clinics where they may be seeing 3, 4 practitioners in one day. This is a great way of seeing just that patient's appointments for the day, for the week, whatever it happens to be. So a little eyeball icon you might not know about. Something else we added a couple builds ago, very important, is the ability to now indicate not just that the client canceled the appointment, but the therapist canceled the appointment, which is a little blue X. And we can put in, therapist was sick, whatever the case happens to be. Why did we do this? because we felt it was necessary to track how many appointments were being canceled, not by the client, but by the therapist. Do we have an issue with a particular clinician canceling too many appointments? So any report where cancellations and no-shows are shown, any report will now show both the client canceled number and the therapist canceled number. So something that you may not be aware of what that was for, but proving to be quite useful. The other thing that we have done is that we have added something in here where, and this is something that's been requested for quite a while, if you try to book a client who has exceeded their coverage, they've gone beyond their numbers, they've gone beyond their days, their units, their dollars, whatever it is, if you do try to book someone who's exceeded any of their coverages, I'll try to book Carol, for example, it will warn you now. It used to do this if they were over on a couple things, but not necessarily everything. The appointment occurs beyond the end of at least one of their coverages, continue, yes or no. So now you do get a warning if they've exceeded any of their coverages before you try to book them. Something new for those of you that use the waiting list, still focusing on kind of scheduling items. Waiting list, again, for those of you that don't know or don't use it, it's an automated waiting list. You put in your preferences for a client, the time and date for a client, the appointment that they want. We are adding provider type in here as well, by the way, not just provider. That's something coming in an upcoming bill. But the way this works is if someone cancels an appointment, and let me just get to a date where we have cancellation here. If someone cancels an appointment, deletes an appointment, moves an appointment, Practice Perfect will pop up and say, hey, I have these two patients that are looking for an appointment. What do you want to do? That's not new. That's always been there. What's new is the ability to either email or text these clients right from here. So if I want to send an email to Steve saying, I got an appointment for you, 9 o'clock Monday morning, or if I want to text Sylvia's not set up for texting, I'll take Steve again, and text Steve and say, hey, we got an appointment for you, 9 o'clock Monday morning, without you having to phone them, email them, whatever, you can now do that right from here, just by clicking on those icons. You do need wired client enabled for the texting. Now, question is, okay, so what are they getting? What kind of message are they getting? Well, that's great you're texting them or great you're emailing them. That is set up under settings, customized email appointment invoice notification, and there's something called waiting list email settings, where you can set up the subject, the header, an appointment has opened up for you at our facility, and the footer, please let us know as soon as possible. And the way the email will go out, it'll go out with the header, it'll go out with the appointment automatically that's available, and in the footer. So something brand new. Texting kind of works the same way. Hopefully it makes management of the waiting lists a little bit simpler. Next thing on our list is something a little minor here, but it was a great idea from one of our users, is the birthday alert. Used to be that up top here, the patient's birthday would only show up when it was their birthday. So if their birthday was the 19th of April today, and it was their birthday, this would show up. And the user said, you know what, it'd be nice to know if their birthday was tomorrow or yesterday, whatever the case happens to be, because we still want to, wish them a happy birthday. And maybe they're not coming in on their actual birthday. Great idea. So what we do right now is if the birthday is within 7 days of their birthday, within a week, this will show up. So that's why some of you might be seeing this more often now. But now I know their birthday's on the 23rd. They're not back here. Oh, they're back here on the 23rd. So that's great. But again, if they're not, you can wish them a happy birthday. Minor little thing, but people seem to like that. A big thing that people have been asking for a very, very long time is the ability to transfer payments between different incidents or between different patients. I will give you an example as to how this works. This has been a long, long time coming. I'm Max. I have a payment here. I have let's see if I have the right Max here. Maybe it's the second Max. There we are. Okay. So Max has a $90 overpayment. The payment has not been applied. And I want to send this to another patient, whether it's Max's kid or his spouse or whoever, or maybe another incident. You can now basically flag that payment and say you want to transfer. Whoops, I have to flag the actual one here. Hold on 1 second here. The $90 payment. And we can say we want to transfer that unapplied payment to another client, another incident, doesn't matter. and how much do you want to transfer? So you don't have to transfer the whole thing. And what this will do is this will now take, we'll make it a more recognizable amount here. What this is going to do is it's going to take $12.34 from Max. He had 90, now he's only got 77.66. It's going to take it away from Max, and it is going to move it on to the receiving patient where you would need to apply it. And let me just bring up that patient, and you will see now on that particular patient that we do have this $12.34 that came from Max that can now be applied like you would apply any payment as well. So this is something, again, been asked for a long time, the ability to transfer payments between clients, between incidents. Hopefully you find that useful. Couple of other things, getting into a bit of the weeds with the financial, is some of you are aware of this tab here, the treatment plan tab. Okay, more for our American accounts, but the treatment plan tab. And in here is where you can say, from a certain date to a certain date for a certain payer or any payer, maybe for a certain fee code, maybe for any fee code that the patient, the insurance company is covering that particular charge. And there's a reference number here, which is an authorization number. So again, a little confusing because we have an authorization number here, but we also have an authorization number here, the pre-approval number, the claim number. So which one wins? Well, up until now, this is what went. Didn't matter. Now you have the option of automatically sending this authorization number based on the treatment plan without having to go and change it anywhere else. And the way that can be set is under each payer, there is a new option called, under billing preferences, use treatment plan authorization information. What that means, if this is ticked, anything from the treatment plan will be used as the gospel, if it's applicable. If there's nothing there, it's not going to get used, obviously. If it's not ticked, the treatment plan will be completely ignored, and the claim number from the billing rules will be used instead. So for some of you, this will be useful. For some, it may not, but it helps automate the billing to a degree as well. Another option that now exists that you may want to use, and this has to do with billing and documentation, is under settings, customize progress notes and documentation. This was introduced a little while ago. There's a new option called force daily note and service duration to match. Okay, again, under settings, let me just go through that again. Settings, progress notes and documentation. What that means is, I'll go back to today, is if your duration here does not match the total of your durations here. Let's say your billing is either too big or too small. It doesn't match the duration. You will not be allowed to complete that note. It's just a double check to make sure that you haven't overbilled, underbilled, misbilled. So again, don't have to turn it on, but if you find that's an issue in your clinic, it's not a bad way of trapping things. In theory, if I was to change this to, was it 45 minutes? I forgot what we had in here. Maybe I forgot what it was, but basically it will match. If this duration matches the duration of the services, then you will be able to complete and sign a note. So something you may wish to take a look at. A big one, another one that people have been asking for a very, very long time. It's a new option under settings, customize accounting, called enhanced activity by service listing. You have to turn this on if you want it. What does that mean? It means when you go to the activity by service screen, you are going to get a lot more information: quantity, units, minutes, visits, code, and get this, adjustments and payments are now broken out into separate categories, which is something a lot of people have been asking for a very, very long time. A couple warnings about this. Why don't we just turn this on for everybody? Why is it an option? Because people with smaller screens or low resolution on their screens will not be able to see all this stuff, pure and simple. We cannot fit this in to people with little baby screens. So it is an option that you can turn on, and it's user-based. One can have it on, one can have it off. And again, just to show you that a bit more about the way this works here, I'll go into Alan as an example here. Even if you expand, the things that, the write downs are under the adjustment column, the checks are under the payment column. So this should make it a lot easier to kind of look at your accounts and figure out what's going on. Again, this one's one that's been a very, very long time coming. Okay, on to reporting. These are a little bit quicker to go through. Again, some of these will be valuable to some of you, some won't. This is one I covered during the last seminar, but the last seminar was on reporting, so I want to cover it again in this one as well, for those of you that may not have been there. We have a new report called a compliance report. What's a compliance report? A compliance report is a report that shows you any patients that are not living up to their prescribed treatment. So what do we mean by that? Let's go into Carol here as an example. In Carol's treatment plan tab, there are some new fields at the bottom here. The ones I'm primarily concerned about are visits allowed and in how many days. This patient, I want to see them 3 times a week, or 2 times a week, or whatever it happens to be. That's what I want to see them. Or I want to see them 10 times in 30 days, whatever it happens to be. So this is where you can set up an expectation for the client, the treatment plan for the client. This new report, the compliance report, and we can run it only for deficient clients, what it's going to show you is all of your patients who are running short of the prescribed treatment plan. Carol, we recommended 2 days per week. She's only coming in a quarter day a week. Okay, so she's well under. This one's recommended 3 days per week. He's only coming in half a day per week, averaged over time. So these are patients that are not living up to their prescribed treatment plan. One thing that came up yesterday during a demo that we did, which is very interesting, I haven't mentioned to Matt yet, is perhaps the ability for wide client to pick these up as well and let patients know if they're running short of their prescribed treatment. Not just not booking, not just like they have fallen off, or not just they've canceled and haven't rebooked, but they're actually falling short of their prescribed treatment plan. So something we may be looking at doing, as well. So again, just a bit of a recap there. It's under reports, operations, compliance report. It's not going to work. It's not going to show unless you put the information in here in the treatment plan tab. If that's blank, then we don't know what their expectation is. Again, something covered in the last session. I'm just going to reiterate it as well. Unbilled services. We have a new option. I only want to see charges where the notes are unsigned. Some clinics have their system set that charges cannot go out the door unless the notes have been signed. So that's a new option. And on the report itself, there is a column now that shows if any particular charge is unsigned. That's been around for a little bit of time, but it's there as well now for you, something to take a look at. Another reporting change, a bit more minor, funding report. For those of you that don't know what the funding report is, it's a great way of saying, can you show me all of my patients that, who only have $1,000 left, or whose coverage expires at the end of April, or they have less than 3 units left, and it will list all of those patients that are coming up on their expiry, whatever it happens to be. A great report. We've added an export option to this one. This is sort of in high demand, and what that basically means is this report will now be exported to Excel as well, if you want to kind of manage it that way. Just extend these charges here. Whoops, try that again. So now you have all the information here with their email, and you can just work through the list and email people and whatever it happens to be. So that's something new as well in the reporting section. One last change to reports, and this is an interesting one as well. For those of you that aren't familiar with the compensation report, is Practice Perfect does have the ability for you to set up, I guess, a payment or reimbursement plan for your providers. If you are paying your providers, and hopefully everybody knows this, but maybe you don't, if you are paying your providers, your clinicians, based on what they do, that can be set up under housekeeping, contacts, providers. There's a compensation tab where for every code you're doing, every single CPT code or billing code or whatever you're doing, you can indicate I'm giving them 70%, or I'm giving them $30 as a flat rate, or I'm giving them an hourly rate, whatever, in this case, $20 an hour. So this can be set up and this can be reported on, and that's called the compensation report. What we've added here is the ability to say, I only want to show compensation. It used to be I want to show compensation on what was billed. I only want to show compensation on what was paid. I only want to show compensation based on the note, on the date the notes were signed. I'm only going to reimburse my therapist if they have signed the notes. So this is something new. Some of you may find this an interesting compensation model. It's a good way of enforcing that notes are signed. So something that was added very, very, very recently. Okay, and that's the end of the reporting changes. We're now going to get on to some of the changes in the sort of in the clinical area. One of these is a bit billing as well. For a long time, under clinical goals, so housekeeping clinical goals, you have been able to specify a provider type for each one of your goals. Is it OT? Is it PT? Is it speech? And again, you can even define the provider types. You can set up your own provider types as well. But we weren't really doing anything with this. It wasn't really, it was just sort of for reference purposes. Under each provider, as a reminder as well, you can assign a particular provider type. So I can say that Michelle is an occupational therapist. So what we've done is we have now fixed this, that when you're entering goals for a patient, and this patient belongs to Michelle, I believe. Let me just double check. So belongs to Michelle. Michelle's an OT. So when you are entering goals for the patient, it will now only show the goals relevant to that provider type. In this case, the OT codes. So this just prevents the wrong therapist from entering the wrong goal into the system, and hopefully gives them a bit of a shorter list to work from. So again, all you have to do is make sure that the provider type is specified in the provider right there, and make sure that the provider types are specified in the goals, and that will work fine. So been a lot of requests for that. Again, off to sort of a bit more of a financial, not sure why I lumped this into clinical, but more of a financial. One of the things that was brought forth was when you were emailing invoices, statements, receipts, etc., to a patient, you couldn't define the header, the footer, the verbiage with each one of those. We've now broken them out. So here's your invoice email settings, here's your receipt email settings, here's your statement email settings. So we've broken these out into 3 separate settings, which means you can have 3 separate headers, footers, descriptions, that kind of thing, because it wasn't like that prior. It was one, which was pretty confusing. Here's a big one, and some of you may not have known about this. So it's a big one, been on the books for a very, very long time, more of a description than a show thing. Well, I guess I can show a bit of it here. The way that Practice Perfect historically has worked was that if you sent someone an invoice, if you signed a note, something like that, with the provider, and let's say the provider's name was, again, Michelle Amarata, and that's her NPI number and that's her signature. And let's say that Michelle, changed her name for whatever reason, marriage, whatever the case happens to be. And all of a sudden, Michelle has a different last name, or maybe her credentials changed. Maybe her credentials or her NPI number changed, and maybe her signature changed as a result. What would happen to date is that if you reprinted an old invoice or an old note, the current name would show up on it. So if Michelle did change her name and you reprinted an invoice from, let's say, a month or 2 ago, it would show the new name, which really isn't right. Same person, obviously, but really isn't right. So with this update, we're now basically storing what we call the legacy information. So if someone does change their name, anything that was done before the name change will retain the old name. So if I was to change Michelle's name right now and go back and print an old invoice, it will show the name as of when that invoice was issued. It will show on the document, on a daily note, on an eval, it will show the note signed based on the information when, prior to the name change. That takes effect the moment you install the update. If you install the update 2 months from now, it's not going to affect anything prior. We are storing that information the moment you install the update. So we encourage people to do this because technically it wasn't right. So that's new as well. A couple other things. 2 new big things that are in the system now is we have something called pending tasks. Pending tasks, and this has been something asked about for a long time, and this is based on provider, so based on whoever's logged in. is a list of all of the notes and documents that the therapist has to sign. So basically, they come in here, and here's all this one. This one's ancient, obviously, goes back a long way. Here are all the notes, all of the evals, all the notes that haven't even been done yet, that the patient or the therapist has to sign. And you can sign them right from here. I can go into this progress note and I can, I can sign off on it, no problem, right from here. Oh, it's warning me the durations don't match. Okay, so that's from before. But again, I can go into any one of these things and sign them right from here. I can go into this eval, and sign it right from here as well. So this is something a lot of people have been asking for, is kind of a task list. Now, a couple of users have said to us, I got stuff on here from 1,000 years ago that we're never going to sign. Let us know. We can run a query to kind of get rid of some of that old stuff. The other thing that will show up on here is pending forms, which we're going to talk about in a moment. The other thing, there was one other thing I did want to mention here. Oh, let's say you want this to be the default screen. Let's say when the therapist logs in, you want them to see this. You don't want them to see the scheduler. You want them to see this. Hey, therapist, here's what you got to sign. You can, in customize, is it other settings, I believe? Right here under settings, let me go back a step here. Settings, customize other settings. There's an option that says, I want to open on the client listing screen. I want to open on the scheduling screen. I want to open on the pending task screen. And again, that is relevant to that user, not everybody. So if you set that to pending tasks, whenever the user logs in, they're going to land on the pending tasks screen. So kind of a key new function that people have been asking about for a very long time. Pending forms. Pending forms, I'm going to jump to a different screen here to show you pending forms. Pending forms, another new tab. Previously, if you're using our customized forms, we call them the Reach Life forms, what would happen is they would come into your email. They wouldn't come into Practice Perfect. They would come into your email. You had to look at them, see what they were, store the PDF, and then import that manually into the client's record. Now what we have is the ability for it to come into pending forms. So anyone basically new with the update, and there's some work we have to do to make this work. It's not quite automatic. We have to set this up for you. But basically with this update, any forms that come in will not come into your email anymore. They will come into here. And I can say, okay, I got an intake form. I don't know who it's from because we don't really know. Here's a date. And we can look at that form right from here and basically see who it's for. A little magnifying glass, and I can see the form is for Steve P, whatever the patient's name is. And then we can basically say, okay, that's great. I want to attach this form to Steve P. I'm not sure if I'm in here or not. There I am. And it'll take that form and move it from here into my activities by document under my name, which it is now. By the way, we've added a couple columns in here for those of you who do have this. We've added a category column, and we've added an assigned to column as well. Now, assigned to is interesting because you can now assign it to a particular user, which means when that user looks at their pending tasks, it'll show up there. If they look at their pending forms, maybe only their own pending forms, it'll show up there as well. So by assigning it, let's say you want someone else to deal with it, you can do that as well. So again, a fair-sized, big new function for Practice Perfect as well. That is the end of the Practice Perfect changes, but I do want to talk about some client portal changes that we have made as well. We're also going to talk about things that are coming up. Some of these are a bit older. I just don't know if people are aware of them or not. Right off the bat on our client portal, that's not what I wanted to do. Let's go here on our client portal. For those of you who haven't seen our client portal, there is now the option. There's a couple of changes we made to the client portal, and these are in no particular order. There is now the option for patients to pay their bills online through the client portal. We've been singing this one for a while. I just want to take this opportunity to bring it up again. But if you're set up with our credit card integrator, Global, patients can pay their bills online. Those payments do get reflected right away into Practice Perfect. And we do have the whole financial portal here where they can see the payments they've made. They can see the unpaid charges. They can see all of their charges, and they can download a receipt as well. We are going to be doing some more work with the receipts to show the services they're actually paying. So there's some more work to be done here. But again, I just want to make it clear that you can now accept payments on the client portal. Couple other things with the client portal that I do want to talk about, just looking at my notes here. There's been some talk about the registration process. It's confusing and people aren't really getting it. And we've taken all those into account and we've tried to make some changes to make it much more clear, because we had situations where people had already been to the clinic but weren't registered on the portal. People hadn't been to the clinic and weren't registered on the portal. People didn't know they were registered on the portal. I mean, there's all kinds of situations we were running into. It resulted in duplicate patient entry, all kinds of things. The other thing that we found, and we'll cover this one first, is that you have to go through the whole registration process just to see if a spot was available. You don't have to do that anymore. If you're a guest, if you're coming to your website, you want to see what's available. Are you a new patient? Click here to sign up or continue as a guest. So without having to register, a user, a potential client can come in here and see what's available. They won't be able to book it until they register. Nothing I can do about that. They got to register to book or we don't know who they are. But you can now have a patient, sorry, you can now have a patient sort of see what's available without having to go through the whole registration process. The other thing we've changed is some of the wording here. Are you a new patient? Click here. Okay. Are you an existing patient but have never logged in before? Click here. And what will happen is they're going to put in their email address and it'll tell them their username and they can ask for their password or register a new account. So we're hoping that this is a little bit more clear here and people aren't getting kind of lost in the flow. So that should really alleviate things and that should really reduce a lot of aggravation as well. Couple other things with the portal to talk about. Back into Practice Perfect. When you do pick a location, so again, if I'm a guest, oh, I've already logged in here, but if I'm a guest, the first thing it asks you is which location you belong to. A couple of things you can set up in Practice Perfect, I just want you to be aware of, is first of all, with each location, you have the address, in the system. It's In Touch Clinic in 100 Main Street, Anytown, whatever the state may be. Let's say on the portal you don't want to display it that way. You want to call it your downtown location or you're next to the mall or next to the Walmart. You can set up what's called a location description and address and phone number to appear on the portal. So it doesn't have to appear with your kind of standard address and zip code or postal code. You can actually put whatever you want here, like beside the Walmart, and that's what will show up on the portal. When the patient goes to pick a location, they'll see this. That's exactly what they're going to see. The other thing that you can do, minor, but it's something that a couple of people have asked for, is under Customize Web Portal, Client Web Portal, you can change the order of locations. Maybe you want your main location to show up first in the list, so you can change that as well. Happens, comes up. So a couple changes to the client portal as well there for you. We're always taking suggestions with the portal. It's come a long way. I'm sure there's stuff we could still be doing better. So don't be shy about sending in some suggestions. Want to talk a bit about the Practice Perfect web version, which we're always trying to enhance and make look like the desktop version. A couple things we've added in here, again, the eyeball. So everything I've gone through should be in here as well. I just want to show you that the pending tasks and pending forms are here as well. They work exactly the same as the desktop version. So they're mimicked in here as well. And just so you know, I don't know if a lot of you know this, a lot of our reports are in here now. And people have been asking, can I do reporting from the portal? And the key reports, the ones most people are using, are here. We are adding more and more with every release as well. What I want to talk about before we get to Q&A is what's coming up. People are sending in suggestions all the time, and I'll let you know some of the things we are working on right now. First of all, with the web version, we're adding more and more mirroring function. The next is the invoicing, being able to invoice and enter payments directly from the web. And then we get into the setup stuff. So the goal is before too long, that everything on the desktop will be available on the web. The financial, really the invoicing and the payment entry is one of the big ones. It's not there right now. The rest of it is more the setting stuff. So we're going to get to all that. On the client portal, a couple things that we are still need to do is reprinting of invoices. Yes, you can print receipts, but we want users being able to reprint their invoices. We're going to be adding 2FA. We're in the middle of making it more mobile friendly, and also the option to cancel appointments online if the clinic wants the ability for patients to cancel appointments online. That will be up to you, as well as change their demographic information online. So we still have a lot to do with the portal. But again, invoicing or reprinting invoices, 2FA, mobile, more friendly with mobile, canceling appointments online as an option, and changing demographics online as an option as well. So that's all in the works right now. Some big stuff coming up with Practice Perfect that we're working. These are a bit broad. A minor one, waiting list by provider type instead of a particular provider. That's a smaller one that's in the works. Interesting thing, we're doing more with texting. We are adding into the system that if someone, and this is an option, obviously, if an appointment is booked with a provider, the provider can be texted automatically, whether it's through the client portal or on through Practice Perfect. If a client uploads a document to a clinic through the portal, the provider will get a text message saying, hey, there's a new document waiting for you. If the provider sends a document to a patient through the portal, the patient will get a text message that says, hey, there's a new document waiting for you. So we're going to be leveraging texting more and more to notify both patients and providers of changes to their schedule, changes to their documents, that kind of thing. Because, if you don't log in, you're not going to know this stuff. And on your phone, you will know. And again, you can turn that off if you find it a bit of a pain in the butt. We are adding a dashboard. This has been also sort of in the works for a long time. Dashboard will show a whole bunch of stats about appointments booked and cancellations and revenue, and it depends if you're a provider or not. We have a whole whack of stats, available spots, how booked up are we, percentage of usage. It's kind of a whole dashboard showing all kinds of very, very key stats, and you'll be able to change the period on the dashboard. I want to see today, I want to see this week, I want to see last week. And again, you'll be able to say that dashboard should show up by default. So we're looking at the dashboard right now. We call it the performance dashboard. Yes, we are looking into AI. Everyone says, I want to do AI. I want to do AI. That's easy to say, not so easy to do, and it has to make sense. So yes, we are looking at incorporating AI into the clinical piece. We've been looking at a bunch of different options and a bunch of different solutions, and we have to be sort of cost conscious as well. Some of them are free, some of them aren't. You get what you pay for typically. So yes, we are looking into AI. And the last thing I want to talk about is we are now doing an integration with a company called Rethink. Rethink handles ABA documentation and charting and graphing and all that kind of stuff that we don't do. And ABA, and the reason we don't do it is it's very, very, very involved, and other people quite candidly do it better. So we are in the middle of working on an integration with Rethink, where basically all the information can get entered into Practice Perfect, and it's sent to Rethink without you having to re-enter it into Rethink, and vice versa. So that's in the works right now. We're getting close to the testing stages with that. So anybody who's ABA who wants to take a look at that kind of thing and learn more about Rethink, let me know. It seems to be a very popular program and very highly regarded. That is the end of what's coming up. And now I want to turn to Q&A. And I know Matt had a couple of them before we get to the chat. And I'm sure that Carrie has dealt with a bunch of them in the background already, which is fantastic. So Matt, if I can hand it back to you to kind of stick handle the whole Q&A thing, and then we'll get into it.
Absolutely. So thank you very much for that presentation, Steve. Lots going on in the past few releases, and it's cool to hear about some of the things that are coming up too. A lot of the folks who registered, they've submitted questions beforehand, so I'm just going to run through a couple of those. Will intake forms be available at some point on the portal?
So yes, what we're looking at doing is if someone has registered, you'll be able to say, okay, these 4 forms need to be filled out, and there will be links where they'll be able to click on those forms. So once they've registered, they'll kind of get an email automatically that'll say, hi, thanks for registering. You need to fill out these these 4 forms. So yes, it is on our list. It's not too long, not too far down the road, and you will be able to define which documents they get. So yes, that is coming.
Awesome. Can 2 different phone numbers for one client be sent a reminder text via wired client? And this is something we were chatting about in the chat as well. At this point, no, we're limited to one phone number per profile, but it's certainly something we want to talk to the dev team about, especially in some of those circumstances where they're parents who are no
Right.
longer together. We want to be able to notify them both. If the grandparents are taking care of the child, they need to be notified rather than the actual parent. It's something we can talk to them about, maybe see if there's a way to include a secondary phone number in the profile.
Right. And again, that means adding another phone number into Practice Perfect as well. So it's not just wired client, it's a Practice Perfect change as well.
Is there a way to get WSIB forms that are uploaded corrected when there are errors, dates not inputting correctly, and one form labeled wrong?
Couple comments on that. First of all, this weekend we're uploading a whole bunch of new WSIB forms. They've introduced a bunch of new programs and we have some updated forms. So first thing I would do is on Monday, maybe check and see if the updated forms are all there. But if you do find any kind of forms where there's an error, let support know. The only way we know and the only way we can fix it is if we know about it. And if it hasn't been fixed, we probably don't know about it. So I would make sure you let support know.
How do I stop the auto posting of payments when I place a balance as patient responsibility?
That's more of a support, a very specific support question. So I encourage the user to contact support unless Carrie's already, well, Carrie wouldn't have seen that question, but I would encourage you to reach out to support about that. That's kind of a specific case.
Emailing or texting directly from the waiting list is wonderful. Is there any way that the message can specify the practitioner the opening is for?
I believe it does. That's a really good question. I'm gonna check that out. It should have that built into the message, but I'm gonna verify that. Check waiting list message provider. That is a really good idea, and I'm hoping it's there already because it really should be. So if it's not, it will be.
Disclaimer, this one's kind of on my wish list too, but when will the text messages be linked slash added to the patient's phone notes area? So the contact log.
Yeah, we have to, we're definitely on our list. We need just basically to develop the link from Wire Client back to Practice Perfect. The only thing we're debating doing is, do we want the text messages to be part of the contact log, or do we want it to be in a whole separate area? Because it's going to kind of be muddied in the contact log. So yes, we're going to do it. We're just kind of thinking about the best way to handle it. And Matt, remind me about that one.
Will do. I'll bug you. Uh, could I use autosave on the iPad version? I guess the web version.
Yeah.
It's easy to get interrupted, and everything that was entered is gone.
Again, it should be saving it as it goes. It could be the way your timeout is set. Again, I would speak to support about that. There are some timeout settings that can be made to avoid that sort of thing. But I would speak to support about that because it should not be doing that.
When will provider historical data be maintained and not overwritten when updates are required?
So
Examples are credential updates, name changes,
yeah,
etc.
that's what we talked about. That was that whole thing I talked about during it's done. You need the update. So that is done.
Awesome.
We covered that during this session.
If the patient registration will transfer any documents in the activity by document section. So I guess that's in regards to the client portal.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I understand the question. Can you read that one again?
If the patient registration will transfer any documents in the activities by document section.
I think that's the pending forms.
It sounds
I
like
don't, yeah, I think that's the pending forms. The questions, I'm not sure if there's a question there, but I believe that's the pending forms thing that we're now doing.
Is there any way to require patients who book through the portal to prepay with credit card?
Not yet. We're looking at doing that. Um, it's honestly not in high demand because it's a detriment to people booking. If I was forced to pay in advance, I might get, I'm going to go to another clinic. So I don't want that being a roadblock and scaring patients away, but it is something we're looking at doing because we know that there are other applications that are doing that. So not yet, but under consideration. If it becomes a big demand, we will do it.
And does this update include two-factor authentication?
Well, there's two-factor authentication already on the web version. There is no two-factor authentication on the desktop version because desktop software does not require two-factor authentication. Like if you go into Word on your desktop, you don't have to two-factor authenticate. And we're adding two-factor authentication to the patient portal. So on the web version of Practice Perfect, that's already there, just needs to be set up. Client portal, it's coming. Desktop not required.
And is that 2FA, is it via email or text?
By text, I believe, or email. I don't recall, to be honest with you.
Okay, all good. So we will start taking a look at some of the messages that we've received in the chat. Carrie, Heather, thank you both so much for attending these while we were presenting. I'm just gonna see if there's anything in here that they didn't get to.
I'm just scanning through it as well. One was with the voice message option will work with a landline. Yes, this is why our client. Voice message. Oh, Carrie, yeah. Okay, sorry. I got to read down and see if Carrie's answered some of these ones here. Is there an auto? Yeah, Carrie's answered. Sorry about this. I'm just kind of going through and seeing what Carrie has answered. Carrie's answered that one. Matt's answered that one. Carrie has answered that one. Two insurance policies, same provider. Hold on 1 second here. Actually, let me just stop sharing my screen for the moment here. Back to my chat. Carrie's answered that one. Heather's answered. I guess Heather's on here as well. Carrie's answered that one. Sorry, guys, I'm just going through this and seeing what we don't hasn't answered. Carrie's answered that one. Um, Carrie's answered that one. Carrie's answered that one. Carrie's answered that one. Carrie's answered that one. I'm getting there. I'm about halfway down here. Interesting. Matt answered this one. If the receptionist cancels an appointment, will the provider be texted? That's coming. That's part of this new notification that we're doing. If it's been canceled, or if they booked, or if they moved it. Two different phone numbers Matt has answered. Looks like that double phone number thing, something we should certainly look at. There will never be a desktop version on a Mac. It's only going to be the web version, to be perfectly honest with you. We would have to actually write a version for the Mac. I don't think anybody's written anything sort of in this realm for the Mac. So in all candor, if you're running a Mac, it's always going to be the web version, which Carrie has answered as well. Would like to be able to add next eval due date to the client missing fields report. Yes, that is on this update. I didn't cover it. Only because it's sort of a smaller change, but next eval due date is now something that you can put on the missing fields report and see if it has not been entered. Graphing with goals, something that we're looking at doing. I keep saying, when people say they want graphing on goals, for example, I say, that's great. What do you have in mind? Show me a sample of what you have in mind. And people typically don't come back with something. So I wouldn't mind seeing what people have in mind. It's something that's meaningful. Any chance you'll integrate with Central Reach? ABA didn't like Rethink. That's unfortunate. We get a lot of good feedback from Rethink, and we get a lot of negative feedback from Central Reach. We aren't planning on integrating with Central Reach because they are really a competitor, because they also do billing. Carrie answered that one. Credit card stored at one location, another location. Yes, Carrie answered that one. Is it possible to send automatic cancellation and rebooking messages? So Carrie answered that one. I'm not sure what that means exactly. You mean if we've canceled it? If, like, for example, we've canceled appointments because of a snowstorm or something, then yes. So that may be what that user meant. I have to click each date. I believe the issue that was asked, I have an issue with tagging payments since upgrade to 634. I have to click on each date. I think that's been fixed, I believe. We can dig into that. Okay, we have several patients who want to leave a tip for the therapist. Well, that's interesting. We don't have an answer for that one. I've never heard that one before. Someone has said they want the patients to be able to leave a tip for the therapist on the client portal. I haven't heard that one. I mean, you can always do an overpayment, but that's an interesting one. If that becomes an issue, then we can do that. The other thing that we've heard is some people want to automatically charge a credit card fee on treatment. We want to charge an extra 3% if they pay by credit card. That's something we're looking at as well. One user said some of my questions are not answered. I don't know which ones haven't been answered, just because of all the back and forth. So if anything remains unanswered, email me afterwards and I'll send it off to the appropriate person, steve@practiceperfectemr.com, steve@practiceperfectemr.com. Recently deleted the wrong progress note. You can also delete, you can recover deleted notes, by the way. That's an option. Speak to support about that. Booking on the portal with a credit card in advance, again, something we'll look at. Do notes have to be signed by both providers in order for them to show up in the compensation report? That's from Ibis. Hi, Ibis. I don't know. I'm going to check that out. Comp report. You and I can speak about that offline. Two providers. We'll check into that. It may be an option. So you and I can chat about that. Did you say yes regarding Central Reach? No, I said no regarding Central Reach. They're a competitor. And honestly, we don't get a lot of good feedback about them. I mean, I don't want to knock them, but we get better feedback about Rethink, and we chose that. Yeah, we are going to be doing AI. And that's it. That's the end of the questions that I have on here. And again, anything unanswered, you can just email me and I'll get them sent off to the right person. Anybody have any other questions? Anything else to add? Matt, do you have anything else to add?
Um,
Um,
just one other thing I want to plug. We are doing a focus group about our billing service, clinical billing solutions. We're looking at hosting it at noon Eastern on Friday, May 3rd. So we're just looking really to do some market research. We want to get your feedback about whether you do use a billing service, whether you do it in-house, if you see any value in using a billing service. We aren't so much looking to promote it. We're really just looking to get some information about the market. So we are offering a $50 Amazon gift card to anyone who comes and completes the question and answer session. But
first 20, right, Matt? First 20, correct? I think.
first 20, that's right. So anyone who would like to register, we'll include a link to that along with the recording afterwards.
And also, I want to stress if there's anything else. We've been doing these about once a month now for the past 3, 4 months, and they've been very successful, and people seem to like them. So if you guys have any ideas about other seminars that you'd like to see us do, we're happy to engage, to entertain doing them. The plan is to keep doing this every time we do a substantial update. We will be doing one of these, probably quarterly, something like that. So that's the intention. But again, any ideas for other topics to cover, email me, steve@practiceperfectemr.com, and we're happy to entertain it. Okay. So I want to thank everyone for coming and hope you found it useful. And again, give us some feedback. You love it, you hate it, things we could do better. We're happy to hear it. Or at least we'll pretend to be happy to hear it.
Oh,
Okay, everybody
thanks,
have a
man.
good weekend. Oh, well, we have to update the download ourselves. Yes, the way updates are done are you can either have support do it for you or you can do it yourself. It will be available Monday morning on the website. But again, if you have any issues, just contact support. If you have any doubts, yeah, one thing that Heather just mentioned is, I'm just going to steal the screen back for a minute here. Where do you put suggestions on the website? So I'm just going to load my screen back up again under our website, www.practiceperfectemr.com. Under contact us, there is a suggestion box entry. So www.practiceperfectemr.com, contact us, suggestion box. Okay. I think that's about anything else with the chat. That's great. Thank you very much. How do I show start screen as pending documents? I think that was a question. It's under settings, other settings, and pending tasks. And then they will log in with that being the default screen. Okay. Again, any other questions, email us, steve@practiceperfectemr.com, and we'll send it off to the right person. And I want to thank you all again for coming.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Bye-bye.
Bye.